What is going on, podcast family? Welcome back to another episode of the Hook It podcast. Today we're on episode number 54 and we're going to be joined by Bryce Starling. But first, some quick business. This episode is supported by Saxx Underwear and most importantly, the Saxx Quest 2.0. The Quest 2.0 is my go-to underwear for long drives, maybe a long flight or even a long hike in the hills. They feature the patented ballpark pouch. They are 3D fit, which means they don't ride up. So again, if you're driving a long time like me, you want to be comfortable. You want your nuts to be in check. You don't want them chafing on your legs and all that horribleness. They also feature flat out seams. They are anti-odor. So if your girlfriend will let you, you can wear them for a few days. You can wear them for a week if you want. Who cares? And they also have the anti-roll waistband, which if you've worn cheap underwear before, you know that the waistband can often roll over, dig in your stomach, and it is uncomfy as hell. So that is the Saxx Quest 2.0. Also, if you have bought a pair of Saxx because of this podcast, I want you guys to do me a huge favor. Slide into the DMs on Instagram or on Facebook and just let me know, like, I bought a pair of these because of the podcast and this is what I think of them. That would be super helpful and I would really, really appreciate it. I want to relay some feedback to the guys at Saxx. So if you're not sure where to grab them from, just drop me a message as well on Instagram or wherever, or head to saxxunderwear.com to find your local stockist, or go to your local bike shop and tell them you want some Saxx and they'll be able to sort it out for you. Simple as that. We are also once again supported by 35 Bikes. 35 Bikes is our in-house brand at Hook It Products, and we basically focus on core components that are consumables. So brake pads start at just $6.99. We do brake rotors, mud guards, and we also do a lot of custom products too. So if you have your own brand or race team or shop, we make custom mud guards, custom stem caps, all in Sheffield. Free design service. It's pretty simple, and the stuff looks rad too. So if you're interested in that, just get in touch. You can ask for 35 Bikes products in your local bike shop or head to 35bikes.com. You can enter the promo code podcast and that'll get you 10% off your order and also free shipping. All right. On this episode, we are joined by Bryce Starling. Bryce is a FMB World Tour rider. He's also just set up his own slopestyle series, the North American Slopestyle Series. And he also just rebuilt a bike park to host the first event. He's got tons of stuff going on as far as trying to push the sport of slopestyle in his local area, getting kids involved in schools and stuff like that. And I just wanted to have him on the podcast for a chat. It sounds like he's got tons of stuff happening. He's a motivated young man, little ball of energy, and he brought fire to the podcast. So, right, I guess without further ado, let's let Ollie Wilkins do us a quick intro, then some main event, and we'll get on with the podcast. Enjoy!
Welcome to the Hook It podcast, endorsed by @ODub_23. Add me, tag me, follow me, please follow me.
Take another lap through the twisted life of a thrill-seek junkie, moto flunky. I wanna live on the edge of sane where the heartbeat rides adrenaline. Close your eyes and count to 5. Hold your breath, you feel so alive. Take me to the only place where the fire inside won't fade away. Can you feel your heartbeat racing when they turn out the lights? The entire world is watching. Are you ready to roll tonight?
Honestly, dude, it's so hot here right now. I'm sweating my bag.
That's
Anyway,
crazy.
right. Press the button, dude. So we are recording. So welcome, Bryce Starling, to the Hook It podcast, dude. It's great to have you on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem, man. I was gonna kick this thing off by saying I get inundated now with messages from people who own a brand or I don't know, some rider or whatever, asking, oh, I need to come on the podcast. I've got this to promote or I've got this many followers, etc., etc. But your message actually was not only was it put across really well, but it actually resonated, and I was like, what you're doing sounds sick. So obviously wanted to get you on here to just have a chat, and hopefully with our platform we can help you promote what you've got going on, basically. So
Yeah, man, I really appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah, I worked on that. I've been working on my pitches a lot. I'm also a business student and almost have my business degree, so I know a decent amount about business as well as being an athlete on the F&B World Tour.
yeah.
But I mean, if I'm gonna give your listeners a little synopsis of what I'm trying to do, I guess.
Yeah, that was Who is Bryce Starling for people who don't know? Like, who is it?
Basically, I'm a slopestyle mountain bike athlete on the F&B World Tour. I compete around the world. I've had really bad luck the last couple of years. 2016, I broke my collarbone in Edmonton. I had like heat stroke. I had qualified for the event, but kept training.
Right.
And then crashed really bad on a trick and broke my collarbone, so that ended that trip. Last year, I had trained really hard, rebuilt an entire training zone for myself on some private property, and it was like really, really, really good. And then actually, I filmed a commercial up there as well for a brand. That was really, really exciting. The first time I've ever done that. But then I went to go do a front flip off a boner log. And my brake actually failed, and so it's kind of pinnacle is you need your brake to do a front flip. So I just floated off this boner log like 20 feet down, just straight onto my back, and compression fractured my T4 vertebrae and bruised my lungs. And this was through a back protector too.
Really?
So if you wanted that's how like heavy the hit was.
Jeez.
And that was the day before I was supposed to fly out to Colorado Freeride Festival, which it was pretty frustrating because I had actually learned a world's first trick that I was going to debut there. That was my goal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so the front flip was nothing. That was just like practice. It was actually a combo in that, and then ended up, it was a rough one. That was a pretty big head game, trying to get back from that, especially front flips are pretty scary. So after breaking your back, it's just like trying to tell yourself that it was a fail. It wasn't really my fault.
Not
it's like,
right area, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it gets pretty challenging there. But so come 2018 now, I kept standing back, and I look at a lot of business things, and I look at a lot of hobbies, and I was thinking it's just kind of silly how we have Crankworks Joyride, and one of the biggest events in all of like the industry is Crankworks in Whistler.
Yeah.
But the only opportunities you have to qualify for that event if you're a slopestyle athlete, and I'm not too sure if it's the same for downhill, but you actually have to go to Europe. There's like almost no qualifying events in North America. The only one they had that had a wild card, and basically you had to come like first, or you had to come within top 10 of the next person that wasn't qualified to Joyride. So like Nikolai and all those guys would go to the event, and so you didn't have to come first, which was nice. So if Nikolai and say like Brandon Semenuk and Brett Reeder were first, second, third, you just had to come fourth. Just the next person that wasn't qualified would get that wild card. And so it's super awesome, and that was great. They didn't actually have Colorado Freeride Festival this year. Tom Van Steenbergen is I've talked to him a little bit too, and he's kind of trying to do the same thing I'm doing. As they brought on the Big White Invitational up at Big White.
Yeah.
That was a gold event. So I think that kind of just switched out the Colorado Freeride Festival, which was super sweet. And I think what they're doing up there is awesome, and I totally appreciate that. And so I'm just trying to help out more because there's something like 30 events in Europe to help you kind of gain points and maybe even just get practice in events. But come to North America, we have 2.
That's crazy, man. Like what?
Yeah,
What?
it's kind of silly. It's frustrating to be an athlete. Like the sport grew here first, and there's tons of events, and then it really, really, really started to just push to Europe, which is awesome because I love going to Europe. But really, trying to like convince sponsors and get factory budgets and stuff like that is not an easy thing. Like you definitely learn how to like hustle because it's not like it used to be where you could just be good on a bike, and get like support. Like it obviously being good on a bike comes in handy, but I think brands are looking at people that can promote the company as much as well as they can just being good on a bike.
Yeah.
So I think a business background and that kind of stuff is really, really important. But getting a little off track, so I started the North American Slopestyle Circuit, hopefully trying to fill this void of having no North American events. So I'm actually holding my first event August 11th at this bike park I rebuilt. It's called the North Sandwich Freeride Park. And yeah, it's a bronze level event, and so it's really just going to help kids and some professional athletes too. They can gain some points there. And these bronze level events, I mean, you don't really gain as much points, but it's a really, really good place to get your head in the game because
Yeah.
I mean, competing and doing all your scariest tricks back to back to back is it's pretty hard. It's not an easy thing to do. So getting in contest mode and being able to do these smaller events is really, really, really nice.
Yep.
But I already have a bunch of locations lined up for next year, holding the possibility of a couple silver events. And then I'm actually holding one in. I'm actually thinking of holding a show because I just bought an airbag, so I kind of want to do a little bit of what Nitro Circus is doing.
Okay,
Put a
wow.
resi mat over that. So I want to do like a show in like the downtown of Victoria, which is where I'm from, and it's on like an event where there's already 30,000 live spectators. So I'm using it as a platform that'll help basically all the sponsors that I get involved in these smaller events. They obviously they want to help me, but I can see from the grand scheme of it, they're not maybe the biggest promotions for them, and their money can be spent better.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do with this, the North American Slopestyle Circuit, is I'm trying to create a brand and a marketing platform for these brands that caters more towards them, possibly. Obviously, the athletes are really, really, really important, and I'm going to create a course that's great for them because obviously I'm also going to be competing in these events, so I want a course that's going to be fun. But I think the really, really important part is to stand back and look at how can we get budgets to make these events happen, because people have tried to hold events in North America, but the budgets always run up extremely high. I know when they used to hold a contest called Jump Ship in like 2014, and the budgets were getting upwards of like $100,000.
Really? Yeah, I remember that's the one that Geordie was involved in, right? Jump Ship?
Yeah, and they did an awesome job, and it was like super, super wicked, but like when you're holding events, and I've come to see, is like there's not a lot of revenue streams, so you really got to like figure out how you can tap into different revenue streams, which is difficult. So a lot of it is relied on sponsorships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm catering towards, is trying to make it a really good platform that where if sponsors do want to get involved in sponsoring it, it's not just these smaller events. I'm also going to do a show that has 30,000 live spectators. I want to create a big audience and a viewership for the brand of the North American Slopestyle Circuit itself. So the social media marketing and all those kind of platforms will also be a huge asset to these brands within the mountain biking industry.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's basically it. We already have about 4 events lined up for next year.
Wow.
And we're holding one event here this year, August 11th, and then we're planning another one at the Air Rec Center, which is an indoor bike park in Vancouver, in November. And then come next year, we're holding another one early in the season in January at the Air Rec Center, just to help athletes that are in North America maybe jump right into the slopestyle scene and competition scene like really, really early, which I think is important because, I mean, most of the contest scenes and contest like environment doesn't really start until like June-ish for a lot of North American guys, because we're raining here,
snow, rain, all that stuff.
Time.
Yeah.
The indoor bike park that we have and is definitely a huge asset, and I definitely hope we can see more of those open up.
I was looking at it earlier, to be honest with you. I stumbled on the Air Rec Center website, so I was looking through. That looks like a sick place. It looks so good. We have nothing like that really here, other than skate parks. But that looks
it's so cool. I mean, I'm the guy that did it. He's a really cool guy, and I'm so excited that he did it. But I know it's quite a hard thing to keep afloat because I mean our housing prices and stuff like that in North America are like super ridiculous right now. Our economy is super overinflated. Like a standard family home's like $1.2 million.
Really.
Like a 2-bedroom apartment's like $600,000. Like it's like ridiculous. So it's super overinflated. So I know for him over there where he has his like tax on his land is really expensive. So he's trying to get government subsidies to kind of level that out. But I know he's doing a really, really good job in the business side of it. It's an awesome bike park in general. So I think he's done a really, really good job in setting himself up in kind of all the schemes that is necessary. I think bringing this FMB event to his facility as well is going to be really, really big just because there are no North American events. One thing too I'm trying to do with this series is I'm trying to get kids more involved in it. I want to get I know when I was younger, I think a lot of the things that really got me into the sport and really kept me in the sport was watching these contests and be able to go to these contests and seeing guys doing backflips or double backflips, and it was like huge motivation and your eyes are just like, whoa, like just crazy. But like I think the sport in North America is kind of not slid off, but it's not as popular as it used to be, is that you don't really get these opportunities for kids to see these contests as often. So they're always just playing video games. I know that's the big thing, is how can we get kids off of the screens. So, I mean, I understand video games is getting quite big, but I think one of the things we need to do is try and cater more to the school systems, which is something I'm working on too, is I want to do school shows. to try and get kids more involved in the sport and actually maybe bring, instead of trying to get the kids to these contests, bring little shows to these kids.
To them,
and then these kids might want to come to the contest to try and get them more involved in the sport. So there's a bunch of different things I'm working on trying to kind of grow the sport. I love the sport of mountain biking. Like it's slopestyle I love it from the scheme of being an athlete on it to seeing kids getting involved in it. And all I want to see is the sport grow. And I mean, my main goal, if I was to ever say like what I want to do with the North American Slopestyle Circuit, is I want to see slopestyle in the X Games again. Like that's my dream.
Yeah.
I don't understand why it's not.
No, not at all.
It's super. It's silly because it's one of the most, in my opinion, spectator-friendly sports. Like when you see these contests going throughout the middle of the cities, like in Europe, like Red Bull District Ride, you're getting upwards of like 100,000 spectators.
Yeah.
Like I don't know many other action sports that really get that.
No, I
Kinda
agree,
like
mate.
viewership.
I totally agree. But one thing I noticed, and I exchanged messages with someone actually who competed at X Games, from the TV footage, it looked so like just dead. There was no one there. Like it's not the X Games I remember. Do you know, like as a kid growing up, the stands
I
are
totally
packed.
agree.
They had like the LA Coliseum that time, and it was stacked. And yeah, I kind of watched it, and I something happened. It was probably a motor event, if I'm totally honest with you. And something happened, and I'm like, there's nobody there, like applauding. Like it's a couple of riders high-fiving each other. Like where the hell is everybody? It's
I totally agree. The last one I watched the BMX one. It was the same thing, and it definitely. During the qualifiers, there wasn't people, but when you look at the finals, there definitely was a decent amount of people in the stands.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as it used to be, but that's one thing I'm very curious on, and what their live viewership might be, because I feel like a lot of their spectators may have just kind of gone to watching it on TV or watching it on streams and stuff like that. Because you got to think of like back in the day when Travis Pastrana was doing like double backflips and stuff like that. Like a lot of the live stuff was really still getting like new. It wasn't very perfected and wasn't even really like integrated into these like sporting events. So that's where I think like I'm very curious, because I want to see, I would love to see the numbers on what that is like if it correlates or kind of, there's not as many live viewerships like in person, but there might be like the viewership online is gone like through the roof. Like there could be tons of people watching it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
that's what I'm curious
the
on.
mountain bike side of it, I know for a fact, Red Bull stuff is that the downhill is one of their most viewed sort of disciplines.
Yeah.
It's killing it. So people are watching, like you say, they're not going to the races. It's easier to sit and watch it at home, and you get almost maybe not with downhill, but especially with like action sports, you get a better view, you get replays, you get the whole nine. You can just sit and chill at home with your friends and drink some beers. I don't know.
Exactly. You can have a little party, drink some beers, you're warm, and then you don't have to travel home after the event or worry about getting drunk there and being like, okay, what do I do?
Yeah.
I still think going live, it doesn't really beat it for some events for sure, but I also think the watching it online, I know like this year for Crankworx Whistler, like I'm just going to watch it online just because I got so much going on. I don't have enough time to go up there and spend the weekend doing it with all the different business endeavors I have going on at the time. Like it's just, I can't take that amount of time to go away. I wish I could, but it's just like the reality of it is like, I just can't.
Okay. All right. You've got a lot of shit going on. It's super interesting. So let's it's probably best just to unpack it a little bit, just so we can like delve deeper into some of the super interesting stuff. So how old are you right now?
So I am 21 years old.
21. Okay. So just come out of college too. Is that right?
Yeah, I got about, I work full time too. So I have a subcontracting construction company that does like commercial buildings.
Okay. Wow.
So I do it with my dad. So my dad subcontracts to me, and then I do some of these buildings, which is nice. So that helps me kind of do a lot of like, covers my expenses for living. And then I go to school for night classes during the off season. And then come the summertime, I work less and I do more of my own stuff. So I do a lot of like the not 9 to 5, but about 7 to 3. I do a lot of this construction. Yeah. And then from there on, I do a lot of the business stuff that I do. So I am really working like 14 to 15 hour days almost every day. Trying to limit that. I mean, I want to kind of take some stuff off my plate, but
the thing is that when you're trying to grow something and you're trying to get something established like you are, like there's no sort of shortcut. You gotta bust your balls. You've got to do those days, man. You got to be making contacts and sending emails and making phone calls. There is no shortcut, unfortunately. No,
there isn't. That's the thing. I know, like we were just talking about Gary Vee offline. Like that's my motivation when I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh man, this another 17-hour day or 16-hour day. I'm like, it sucks. So go watch one of his videos. I'm like, all right, it's gonna be worth it. It's all gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
I want to bring more slopestyle events to North America so that I don't have to spend so much money going to Europe time and time again, because man, those prices get up quite high after you go back and forth like 3-4 times a year. It's like
Yeah.
it starts to add up, and trying to get companies to back. I have really good sponsors, and I do get help.
Yeah.
But I can't expect my sponsors to flip that entire bill.
No. I know what you mean. That's definitely a fine balance these days. With in fact, I had the same conversation yesterday actually with somebody with one of our riders, that it's, although like mountain biking's in a pretty good spot, it's still super hard to get actual financial support from most companies.
It is,
you know.
I think that's where it's like the riding is so important, but I think brands are really looking for what can you offer us more than just your riding?
Yeah.
Which I think is really, really important. And looking at it from like a business standpoint, if I was a brand and I was looking for an athlete, I would be looking for the same thing. Like I'm maybe not going to go look for like the number one athlete, because one, he's going to cost a lot of money. I'm going to go look for the guy that's like pretty good and maybe got like a pretty good established brand. And I was going to say, like, I mean, a really, really good guy for an example like this would be like Lucas Knopf. I don't know if you know who he is.
No, I don't know.
He's like been on the FME World Tour, but he's built himself a pretty good brand. Like, it's pretty established. He's like got like 60,000 followers on Instagram and like a pretty good YouTube channel going. And he seems to know a little bit about business because he started his own like t-shirt brand. And so he's killing it. So like if I was a brand, I would be going after a guy like that rather than like a guy like Brett Reeder or Nikolai Rogakin. They're awesome. And trust me, like if you have the budget, for sure, you're going to want to go for those guys. But I think brands strategically look more at the guys that are in the middle of the pack, but have more of an established brand, or maybe know a little bit more about business. Just from a strategic standpoint, is you don't have to, you'll get maybe more bang for your buck compared to going for kind of like the head. But obviously you got those companies that have the big budgets that don't really worry about that, and they're like, well, and for sure you're gonna get a return on your budget or on your money if you're going with a guy like Brett Reeder, just because I mean, he's Brett Reeder, like, he's winning everything. So I mean, yeah, there's obviously, but I think companies are definitely looking more for strategic rather than just like what it was in like the 2000s, where it was like, if you're good at biking, here's a Red Bull helmet and a sick budget.
Yeah, it's true.
It's definitely different.
Would you say then it's gotten almost easier for athletes to not make a living but like get support now, because they can just hustle so hard on like other things, like you say, social media, or whether it's a YouTube channel or creating a clothing brand or something like that? Do you think that has helped sort of like, athletes?
I think it's definitely helps a lot for athletes. I don't think you really need to be like necessarily the number one in the world anymore to get like help within going in the sport, and they'll help you grow. Like one guy I think I'd put for an example, I mean, it's really like, you just like, if you can build yourself a brand, you can just about do whatever the heck you want for the rest of your life. One guy that's a good example would be like Tanner Fox, if you know who he is.
He's
Like he's a scooter kid who was like pretty awesome. He had a few 100,000 subscribers. He was like really good at scootering, and I don't think he wasn't like the best in the world, because that's like our Willie. But he's built himself like an extremely established brand with like 10 million followers now or something like that.
Wow.
So like he's done himself good, and like when you look at a guy like that, he could really do whatever he wanted. If he got back into scootering, like he could be like Red Bull, like I want to get sponsored by you. Like he has more of like what would be the word? He has like something in his pocket that he can bring to the table that's above and beyond just his riding, which I think is really, really important. Is if you're able to build yourself an established brand of some sort, or even if it's just your name, it definitely makes it easier for up and comers. But at the same time, it's not an easy task to build a brand. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time, like a lot of emails. You got to really network with people. So I think it's definitely it's a give and take. I think that back in the day, it was like you really could just sit on your bike and train like day in and day out, and then go do really well at a contest and get like factory sponsorships and budgets and be good to go. Where this day and age, like you could do really, really, really good at an event, and you could constantly get like 5th place, but not really see many huge sponsors. Like you got like a guy like Logan Pete, who he's still sick. Like he's still got really like good sponsors for sure. But like you never really see him sponsored by like Red Bull or Monster or Rockstar. But I mean, for a good time there, he was getting 5th place at Joyride, like 4 years in a row or 3 years in a row. So it was like a lot of it's really it's changed. The sporting environment has changed quite a bit. I think within action sports specifically, where brands look for different stuff now.
A complete package almost, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. They want a complete package.
It's interesting too. I heard a while ago that it's Kevin Hart, isn't it, the actor, that he has like 2 price points if you want to have him for a movie. So you can have just Kevin Hart, but if you want Kevin Hart and his social media following, that's a whole different ball game. Like,
yeah, you know what? Actually, that makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, you bring that up. I remember I was actually watching an episode of The Dragon's Den.
Right.
I'll watch that every once in a while. But there was one episode of a guy who was pitching The Dragon's Den some idea he had for something, and he had a really good pitch. And this guy, you could tell, was like a really good like spokesperson, and was smart. But they kind of talked to him more, and they discovered that he had about like a 700,000 subscriber count on YouTube. And then so the Dragon Den, the guys were just like, so like, how much money are you making from that? He's like, well, about like $500,000 a year. And then they're like, okay, well, so if we go with your brand, we also get the YouTube channel too, right? Like that's part of the package. And he's like, well, no. But I mean, they ended up talking him into it. And so, yeah, like how they ended up getting that was like he probably only got that deal because of the brand he actually had behind the product.
Yeah.
But he wasn't selling the brand behind the product. He was selling the product. But then, yeah, so that was like an eye-opening moment for me to see like how important and how different the environment is getting within social media and stuff like that. And I think that's one really, really interesting thing too. Like if we talk about Gary Vee, is you look at like Instagram and Facebook ads and stuff like that. Like they're extraordinarily cheap for the return you can get. Like you look at Pink Bike, I know their ads get quite expensive. Or you look at a company or a page like Plus Size BMX, and for very good reason. Like they have an established like viewership. They see like quite a few people per month, so like their numbers are there for a reason. But it's just like you look at Facebook and you get like 6 cents per click, where I mean if you're probably looking at other places it's closer to like $1.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is for sure. Like I say, it's interesting how it's totally flipped the switch on the whole industry. It's nuts. But like and you were saying before about keeping kids off screens, I think there's just a fine balance, eh? Like kids are probably so intent on filming and building this profile and this sort of brand that they're not, I don't know, man, they're not actually just doing it for the love of it. They're doing it to get sponsored and all that sort of shit.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people do. And I mean, I can't even, I used to do that too. I used to be like, all I want to do is get sponsored. So like when you're like 15, you like anything you get for grassroots, you just think, you just showed off to all your buddies. You're like, I'm sponsored by blah, 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 which I think is a really smart tactic for companies to do, is do grassroots sponsorships.
It is good.
Yeah, because they give kids like 10% off a product, and then they go brag to all their friends, and then they want the same thing, and they're still turning a profit on the product they give to the kids.
Yeah.
But they're just getting them more stoked, and so I think that's a really good way to do it. And I think that was probably like the start of influencer marketing in a sense.
Yeah, definitely. I remember being young and like just sending letters. God, this is old. Sending letters to companies for free stickers, and then you get all these stickers. And Oakley was super cool. I once sent a letter to California to Oakley HQ, and they sent a box full of product for me. So sick.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so wicked. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I know those days when I've done that. I mean, I still do it. It's just like you're trying to get new sponsorships, trying to get new budgets, and it's a hustle within the sport now. I think it's not as easy. Maybe not easy is not the right word to do it or to use, but yeah, it's definitely crazy. The sports, I love the sport. It's super awesome. I think slopestyle is still like really great. I just want to see it grow and grow, and I think the way to do that is to get kids into it. I think the kid part of getting is the important part.
Yeah.
One, like we were talking about video games, I think what is really important is do you know who Ninja is? Who's like the streamer? Like blowing up.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've heard of that guy.
Like back in the day, like when I was a kid, like I'd look up and I'd see Brandon was like the star boy. Like he was like, oh my god, like a celebrity in a sense, and you're like, oh my god, like that's who I want to be. He's winning everything, and it looks like he's living the life. And I think you saw a lot of that when I was like younger, and I'd see action sports athletes for that. But now it's kind of changed where you see video game athletes in a sense are that, and it's so much bigger than action sports ever was. So it's like that's what kids turn to because that's what they're looking up to. So I'm like trying to see like my goal is to try and get into the school programs and get them more involved in doing kid camps. And the bike park I'm working on, I'm trying to convince the government to give us an airbag or to buy us an airbag because I have a source in China that's really, really reputable.
Right.
And so you don't have to pay like what airbags normally cost, which is like mind-boggling. So that was a good source I was able to discover.
Yeah. So just to rewind everything again, just a little bit, how did you get started in mountain biking? That's always super interesting. Like, are your family involved or anything like that?
Yeah,
Or?
so my dad did really well for himself when I was younger. So we had like 10 acres on like the top of a mountain. So like mountain biker's paradise. I think it's a pretty classic story. Basically like my cousin was into mountain biking. So I looked up to my cousin. He was kind of basically like my bigger brother. So then I got into mountain biking, and then I'd see all of his friends doing all these crazy tricks and building all these crazy features. So like I wanted to do that too. So I would just train and try and get good. And then until I was like I think I was like 11 or 12, my dad said he was going to build me a foam pit because he didn't want to see me get hurt if I was going to try and do backflips and stuff like that.
Shit,
and
that's amazing.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a pretty ghetto setup. Like it worked. It was like basically like scaffolding around that built like a square and then just plywood. And I have videos of it. It's pretty funny when you look at it, but it was small, but it was great. Like I learned my first backflips. I was able to learn how to do double backflips into it. Like basically that foam pit is like what motivated me to actually think like, holy crap, like I have all these assets at my like disposal.
Yeah.
If I want to do this is something I could actually do. So I think when I turned like 15, I started actually like not like taking it seriously, but kind of like if I train really, 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 really hard and I keep training and never give up, like I could reach the top of the sport. So I did that. Like I trained day in, day out, like all the time. Like I'd get home from school, I'd ride in the rain, the snow, like whatever it was. Like I would ride that foam pit like constantly. And I learned so many tricks, and that was like the biggest asset for me for sure was that foam pit that my dad gave to me. So that was what's kind of slingshot me into wanting to become a professional athlete or trying to go into the slopestyle game.
Yeah. Have
That's
you
kinda
always
how
resonated towards slopestyle as well, or is there any other discipline?
Yeah,
that
no,
you've-
I think I like downhill, and I used to go up to Whistler with my dad just about every weekend, or not every weekend, sorry, but during the summer we'd probably go like twice a month or something like that.
Okay.
And I liked it, but I the backflips, I think Travis Pastrana, watching him do FMX stuff was what really I was like, I want to do that on a bike. So I think FMX has always really motivated my style of riding. So like one of my signature tricks is like a backflip cliffhanger, which is super like dirt bike. So
sure.
the airbag I just bought too. That's what I've been working on now. I think I want to go more to what kind of got me into the sport was like doing a lot of these FMX tricks. So that's what I've been focusing on learning in the past few like 6 months.
Okay, that's sick. That's cool. I mean, Travis is someone that I've looked up to forever. And for anyone listening who's a Travis fan, actually, the last guest I had on the podcast, Jace McAlpine, had Travis on for to do an episode, and he was so good. It's worth listening to. It's a sick podcast, dude. It's like 3 hours of just like Travis explaining how he grew up and like his moto days, and then everything else like rally car and everything. So
that's awesome.
For sure, check that out. But yeah, Travis has always been a big inspiration of mine. So that's cool. So, and then obviously you said like around 15 is when you started taking it a little bit more sort of like seriously.
Yeah, I started going to contests when I was about 15. There used to be, when I was 15, there was more contests for sure.
Yeah.
So I'd go up to Mount Washington, used to have jump jams, and so I'd go to those all the time. And then when I turned about 16, this one place, it was called Silver Star. They used to have an F&B event up there, so that was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And then I went up to that, and I think the first year I qualified for the finals. But then I like nose case flipping onto the whale tail, which is like an on-off feature. And I fell off the side of it, like 10 feet down straight to my back.
Oh, shit.
And I bruised my tailbone, and I was like in quite a bit of pain, like I could barely walk. And I was pretty bummed because that was like the first event I had kind of like really given it my all and tried to do all of my best tricks. And I had to limp all the way back up to the top and say, hey guys, I can't do the event. Like I can barely walk. So that was like the start of being plagued by injuries.
Right.
But yeah, it's just got to keep pushing forward.
For sure. So you pretty much just stuck at it then, like all through school and everything, just like training slopestyle, riding locally. Like, have you got a local? Who's the local crew? Like, who you riding with?
A lot of the local crews kind of died down, but I ride with Peter Savage, Jordy Lunn a lot.
Oh, sick.
I'm actually going to ride with Jordy tonight on my airbag. And then
Say hello
there's
from
some
me.
other guys. Yeah, I will, man. I will. But yeah, a lot of the local scene of like the guys that wanted to like competed. I compete with James Davidson every once in a while when he comes to Europe with me.
Okay.
So he still rides here and there, but not like super often. I'm basically riding just about every day that I can. So a lot of I'm really kind of riding by myself a lot of the time these days.
Right.
There's a decent like local scene, but like guys that want to compete, there's probably about 10 of us. But a lot of the guys, like they don't have the budgets or the funds to be able to go to Europe at all. So I'm trying to help out a lot of those guys here, and then I'm trying to help out the guys in Vancouver too. Like I know the struggle of like trying to get to Europe and how much of a hassle it can be. And if you have the budget, I highly recommend, because it is great. Like going to Europe is super fun. It's a cool experience. The contests are always super awesome. Resolution always does a great job of holding these events.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, if you can go, you should go for sure.
For sure.
But I want to bring some stuff more to hit home, and I think I'm trying to grow it in North America again and create more events, because I think trying to get it to like maybe the cities, or even just holding like smaller jump jams that are just like 2 jumps, or even like what I was talking about earlier, where I want to do like kind of like a Nitro Circus type show with my airbag and put a resi mat over it, which is basically what they do.
Yeah.
And then, that'll be in like the middle of the city. They'll close off a street and there'll be like thousands of people down there.
Yeah, for sure, man. You're like, aim high, dude.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, actually, I got approved to do that this year, which was pretty crazy.
Really?
That was supposed to be my first event. But due to so this is my first time dealing with like cities and stuff like that, because I'm only 21, so I really have never dealt with the government at all. So dealing with municipalities, which is the Canadian government, is pretty challenging. They put a lot of requirements on you. And fair enough in a sense of liability, but they make it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
But I was able to knock they all got checked off basically. So I was able to hold the event this year. But I only got to go ahead a week before the event.
Oh.
So it wasn't doable. There wasn't enough time to make sure it was going to be a success.
Yeah.
So I'm taking all that groundwork, and we're just going to do it next year, and it won't be a struggle. Like, we have an insurer, we have the setup now. Like, it'll be super easy. Like, the airbag takes like 20 minutes to puff up, and I can puff it down, take it out of the area in like 10 minutes. So.
Okay. That's rad.
It should be pretty wicked, yeah.
It's pretty cool having Geordie local as well, man. Geordie seems like a really nice guy. Obviously, we've remained
he is
somewhat friendly, like over messages and stuff like that, since he came on the podcast. And obviously, he's been around for a long time. He's one of those guys that's sort of like been there, kind of done it, you know. So he's
exactly. He's kind of like a godfather for sure, like the godfather,
sure. The Lund father, man.
Yeah, the Lund father. He's done a lot. Like, he's held a lot of events, and I definitely admire Geordie for all of the stuff he's given back to the biking community. Like, he was holding Jump Ship, and I mean, from the small stuff I'm doing now, I can't even imagine like how much of a headache that was. He had quite a big team behind him, and I know he had a lot of support. So that's really awesome that he was doing all that. And I want to help and try and bring more events back, and then maybe more guys will get intrigued to want to do that as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting as well what you said at the beginning, you know, that it's hard for young athletes like yourself to sort of get the FMB points you need to work your way up the rankings, because I was super confused before I had Darren on here. So Darren's the GM of Crankworks. He was on the podcast a little while ago. Yeah. And he sort of broke down how it worked basically. So there's bronze, silver, gold, diamond events. Obviously you score more points at each of those events, but you kind of have to work your way up those rankings, right?
Yeah, so there is a kind of like a slingshot process.
Okay.
So you can go kind of right to a gold event. A lot of them will have open qualifiers or open pre-qualifying.
Right.
So a lot of the time you have to send them a video to show them that, like, hey, you have the skills to ride the course that they're going to provide. So that's what I've done a lot of the time to go to the contests in Europe. Is I'll compete in the pre-qualifying, and then you go from pre-qualifying and you go to qualifying, and then the qualifying to finals. So you can kind of slingshot the process from bronze all the way up to gold. as long as they kind of see a video and they agree that you could ride the event. So a lot of the times when I go to Europe, that's what I've done, just because there's not enough contests over here to gain enough points to even get an invite to those contests.
Got you.
So you have to go to Europe. So yeah, the silver events are really good ones too, and then the bronze ones are kind of where you have to start, more or less. If you're really just starting in the sport, you kind of have to start in bronze and then try and get some wins or some high placings, and then there's very few silver events. Like I don't think we've even ever had a silver event in North America.
Really?
Like I don't think I can't remember, but I'm 90% sure we've never even had a silver event in North America. We've had a bunch of bronze ones. One year we had like about 4 or 5 bronze events. But yeah, I don't think we've ever actually had a silver event. So that's one thing I'm trying to get into, is I want to work my way up.
Yeah.
Hold a couple successful bronze events, and then I already have some locations, and then just trying to figure out budgets. But one thing I'm trying to do right now too, is instead of making it a company, I want to make it into a nonprofit. Just basically trying to get government subsidies to try and help with paying all of like the overhead, because they can get up, and I mean, a lot of these smaller contests can still cost like $25,000 to $15,000 to hold at the end of the day, because I mean, it does take man hours to build these courses, and so it can get up there pretty quick. So I'm looking into government subsidies so that it's easier, and because it's huge for a lot of like the towns and stuff like that where you hold these events. It brings a lot of exposure, a lot of athletes, and even a lot of spectators. Like I know when they're holding a contest up in Fernie, which is about like a 15-hour drive or something like that from where I am.
Okay.
I'd go all the way up there just to compete in this event. So like I can't even name how many other athletes would do the same thing.
Yeah.
So it is really good for the towns that they have these events in. So I'm trying to get government subsidies just to cover a lot of the costs. And then I know a lot of people too, they look at companies and they go like, why do I want to fill your pocket? And I want to make it very, very clear that that's not what I'm trying to do. I really don't want to fill my own pocket. I don't want the company to fill its pocket. Like my goal is to just get paid for my time. Like that's all I want, is if I can organize this and make it happen and cover like my expenses of what I would have to do if I had to work a normal job. That's kind of my goal, is just to be able to get paid for going away for 2 weeks to cover the event.
Yeah, really good way of looking at it. And has there been much kickback so far? Is everyone pretty stoked on what you're doing? Like how long have you, I mean, you said you sort of like planned the event last year, but as far as the actual series goes, how long have you been working on that?
The series, I think I've been kicking around this idea of a series for maybe a year and a half. I was talking to I think Drew Bezanson and Braden Barrett Hay a little bit about the idea of a series.
Yeah.
They thought it was a great idea. I know Braden was thinking about holding an event at his place. And so that was the kind of the first talk of like, oh, I think a series would be a really cool idea to start. And then last year I started really, really thinking about it. And I was like, I don't understand why it's not. Like, why does it not exist? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, there's a void that needs to get filled.
Yeah, it sounds like.
And so I was just standing there, and I was like, I mean, I like business. I was like, I mean, I think there's a few moments in your life when you're gonna look at something and think, oh, okay, I might actually have a pretty good idea, or there's something that should be there that isn't there, and no one's doing it. So why don't I just do it?
Yeah.
So I definitely stood back, and I think last year, I mean, I have a board behind me in my office here, kind of all this stuff written down of planning these events. And so I think last year is when I really started to sit down and reach out to sponsors and be like, hey, like if I was to do this, is this something you could support me with? And a lot of my sponsors were all on board, and I'm so blessed. I love like all my sponsors. Like they're like, I have such amazing support from them. Just from looking at it from a business standpoint of what I was able to get from a lot of these guys, and not really having a proof of concept for the events, and they're basically just having full on faith in me. Is really nice. Like that's cool, a great reassurance, because I know from a business standpoint, if I was someone getting reached out to from a random person saying, hey, like, can you support my event? I'd be like, okay, well, what have you done? The guy said nothing. I'm going like, oh, so I mean, that this first event I'm doing is kind of more a proof of concept. So I have something to show sponsors and try and get bigger budgets, and being like, hey, like, I know I'm starting out, but I do know what I'm doing. I can organize an event. I have a business background. Like, I know the sport enough. So this first event is a proof of concept to show to sponsors that it is what it is. A lot of this is actually just coming out of my own pocket to be able to hold this event.
Right.
Because I wasn't able to get money from a lot of sponsors, which is fair enough, because once again, the same thing I was just saying, which is the proof of concept. They don't want to put a budget into something which they just really don't know what it is.
And how hard was it, or how hard is it to get the FMB bronze event there? Is that just
It's not too hard actually. It's really nice. I think that's one thing I'm very grateful for the FMB is they make that process quite simple.
Yeah.
You just have to fill out an application basically. It's just as simple as getting your FMB license as an athlete.
right?
There's requirements for a bronze event. It's not too bad. The requirements are pretty easy. You get up to a silver event, which is going to be the next thing I'm going to be working on for an event next year for a proposal I need to work on still. But it gets more complicated. Like you need to have FMB judges for a silver event. You have to have a prize purse, and then you need to put up these judges in hotels and stuff like that. So you need to cover the costs.
Yeah.
So costs get up there, but the mountain I'm looking to work with right now is a lot of those FMB regulations they're able to provide and make that not a problem at all, which is nice.
Yeah.
So I think, I like the FMB in that sense. They make it really easy to hold an event.
Yeah. That's super interesting, dude. I love what you're doing. And I also wanted to ask you about the actual venue. So you have to tell me the name of the bike park, 'cause I can't really say it.
Yeah, so it's called the North Saanich Freeride Park.
Okay.
It's in Victoria. It's really close to the ferries that takes you over to Vancouver, which is like where Whistler and stuff is.
Huh.
So it's on like a little island. It's where Darren Bearclaw lives, Jordy lives.
Nice.
Yeah. So
And
the
it was
bike park,
an old bike park, is that right? And you've helped.
yeah, so it was an
rebuild
old bike park. I don't know if you know who Mark Matthews is.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I saw that
Yeah.
today. Actually, I did a little bit of research this afternoon and saw that Mark Matthews had been involved in the past.
Yeah, so he built the bike park. He kind of like forefronted the idea when he was younger with a bunch of buddies, and so they started it and built it. And over the last like 3 years, it's kind of gone under the radar. Not very many people would go ride it. It'd be more of like a kids thing. It didn't really cater to kind of like professionals or guys that wanted to do tricks at all. The jumps weren't very trickable.
Yeah.
So this year I like donated all my time. It took like 200 hours, and I rebuilt the double black line is what they call it.
Okay.
And so it's pretty large. It's probably one of the larger government on government property, like larger bike parks, because the jumps are pretty big. Like some of them are about like 20-foot gaps and like 6-foot tall lips. So it's a pretty sizable bike park for what we're able to do in there.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect to cater towards the bronze event. We're also holding an amateur event on the single black line.
Sweet.
So yeah, we rebuilt the bike park this entire year, and then we're hoping to get more government funding because that whole bike park is actually funded by volunteers.
Right. So did you have any trouble sort of getting everyone else involved to help? Like they all put stoked on the idea? Or?
I literally basically built that double black line by myself in like the off season. It took like over 200 hours. There's me and one other guy. We did get an excavator from like the society, which was really nice. So we were able to move the dirt and pack it, and so it was a hassle, but we didn't get very much help from the community within digging.
Right.
But it's pretty common. I mean, mountain bikers have kind of been known for being pretty lazy. That's why a lot of people say no dig, no ride.
Yeah.
But it's a government park, so there's kind of no thing where you can say no dig, no ride. But I was kind of what I expected. When I walked into it, I knew it was going to basically be myself and then a guy named Alex, and he did a really good job, and I really appreciate all his help.
Yeah.
But he did a lot of the smaller stuff, and then I did basically the whole bigger line.
Okay. So do you have any before and after photos we can share as well? Or
Do we? That's a good question. I might. I think I do.
If you do, it'd be cool.
Yeah, I can send you some.
That'd be cool.
For sure.
And we'll
get
share
some
them
stuff.
around after the episode goes out, so people can see like the work and stuff like that.
Yeah, it definitely was a lot of work.
Okay, that's rad. So it's more of a dirt jump competition than this one, bronze.
Yeah, so
dirt jump
it's a dirt jump competition, and I'm trying to turn the facility. I was talking about trying to get government funding for an airbag there because they have like a roll-in structure that was built, but there's no jump there. So the goal is to get an airbag, and then I want to turn it into like a really really good kid-friendly like summer camp kind of type of area.
Okay.
And so that's why I was talking about going to schools and doing shows and then trying to get kids really excited on the sport. Then they'd come to the bike park. There'd be an airbag and a bunch of other stuff for them to learn tricks if they got really excited on it. And then it also gives them an opportunity that, oh, hey, by the way, there's an amateur event and a pro event that comes. It's going to be an annual event, which is the August 11th.
Uh-huh.
So it'll give kind of kids everything they need if they actually want to get into the sport.
Yeah, there's like an end goal because they can compete there and then take it from there, really, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to give back to the sport.
Do Dude, what you're doing is insane. It sounds like you've got so much stuff going on. It's crazy, but
It's a lot. For sure.
yeah, these
It's
things
overwhelming, but
it'll pay off though, man. By the sounds of it, like what you've got going on is super cool. Obviously, I don't know the scene over there too well. I'm almost when you sent the message, I'm almost still surprised that there's not more FMB events where I see the sport has been huge. You know what I mean?
I know
Like,
it's
that's why
very
I see it
confusing.
being
That's
huge.
why I don't understand why it is. I think the only reason probably is that you have to deal with the government, and it is
Hard work.
you got to shake your head sometimes, man. Like you just hear the things they say and the things they like the reasoning, and it's like you really just gotta leave the room for a couple minutes, scream in a mirror, come back and be like, all right, shake his hand and leave.
Yeah.
Because some of the stuff they say and the requirements they give you are just absolutely ridiculous. They try, like, sometimes they'll ride the price up like $3,000 for just no reason. It's just super dumb.
Wow.
So like this event specifically, like they gave us a bunch of requirements that were super stupid that basically rode the price up like $3,000.
And why do you think that is? Is it just trying to make it like
I
hard
don't think
or
they
what?
wanted to hold the event this year. Yeah, I didn't think the council wants it. So with how our government works is we have the municipality, which deals with the society, which the society runs the bike park.
Yep.
And we go through the municipality, and then the municipality has to report kind of to the council, the city council.
Okay.
And so we got city council approval, but I don't think the municipality really wanted to give us approval to hold this event, just like liability, and I don't think they're the biggest fans of the bike park. But we were able to get approval, and thank you to the municipality, because I know it was a struggle, and I think they didn't like it and they didn't want to do it. But I think this is going to show them that it is worth it. It's a huge community thing, and it's gonna pay off in the long run for sure.
Yeah. So have you already got like entries? Is there enough people coming to you
Yeah.
know?
So entries wise, I've gotten a few signups online, which is awesome.
Yep.
I know there's about 10 guys here already that will compete in the professional event. And then the amateur event, I think we have about 5 or 6 kids that are already
Sweet.
signed up. So
Yep.
hopefully more will sign up. But yeah, should be.
I
I'm
think because
excited.
it's the first one too. Probably, I don't know. A lot of people are just going to scope it out, see what it's all about.
Exactly. I
think-
don't really have huge expectations for the first one, just because I know it's the first one.
Yeah.
So I really, like what I was saying before, is I'm just trying to do this first one as a proof of concept for sponsors, then be able to kind of spread the word more. And then I think over the years, the goal is to try and get it government funded next year, because it's a huge asset for the government itself. So that's the goal.
That's sick. That's sick. So, tell me about your career as well, man. Obviously, you said you're an FMB athlete, which has involved quite a bit of travel around the world.
Yeah.
So where you're at in your own like riding career, obviously we know about the business stuff. You've got a shit ton going on, which is rad. But as far as your actual riding career goes, like what have you got going on this year as well?
This year I bought the airbag, like I was talking about, for training purposes. So that I had basically I was leasing this land, and I spent like $5,000. I built this entire like really good training ground that had like a mulch jump and like a whole like slope style set that like spanned the entire property. And it was awesome. But then a bunch of stuff happened, and then basically I wasn't able to lease the property anymore. So I got kicked off the property just after I broke my back. So I got hit with 2 whammies there. I was like, oh, that one sucked. So this year, not losing any hope. Same thing. I bought an airbag. I bought it in like January, and it took so long. It didn't get here till like July.
Right.
So that kind of sucked. But contest wise, I was going to go to the Big White Invitational. But my airbag, actually, great timing, showed up on the exact same time the contest was supposed to be. And if I went there, it was going to cost me $1,000 to hold my airbag at this warehouse.
Wow.
So I was like, I can't pay to go to this event and then also have to pay to hold this airbag there and then pick it up, because I have to pay duty and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it would have cost a small fortune to do all that. So I had to skip out on that event this year, which was a big bummer. But so for this year, I'm really kind of just, I'm training. Like I'm just really like doubling down on learning my tricks, getting my tricks dialed. My plan is to go to the Big Rise contest in China in November.
Okay.
It's a silver event, I believe. There also is a gold event that's right after it, so I'm hoping to try and time it where I can do both. But yeah, contest-wise, I'm kind of aiming towards more the end of the year. There is one other bronze event in North America. It's what's it called again? I can't even remember. It's called like Huckenberries or something.
Okay. All right.
And so I'm going to go to that contest too, which is in September of sometime, I believe. And then I heard there's also an event. It's like in Delta or something. I think Ray George and a couple of his buddies are holding some sort of jump jam. It's not part of the F&B or anything like that, but it's just kind of like a jump jam, and I think they're kind of trying to do the same thing I'm doing, because they're talking about how they miss the jump jam scenes and having all the contests and stuff like that. So it'd be really sweet if we could, if I can talk to these guys. I want to try and connect them, because I think if we can hold events in the U.S. as well,
Yes,
just
of
kind
course,
of a part of the whole circuit, and make it like a circuit and make it certified by the F&B, and just kind of have like a governing body, and then you kind of just cross market and get everyone to these events, just to try and get the best turnout as possible. So yeah, I've got about 4 contests lined up for towards the end of this year.
Sweet. Okay. So how hard is it being a young sort of up and coming slopestyle rider these days? Because obviously you watch it from the outside looking in, the sport's continually like elevating, the tricks are getting harder. So how hard is it for you to keep on top of that game? And like, do you like have to have an airbag? Do you have to have like mulch jumps and a training facility and all that stuff just to keep like on top?
Really, it is getting to that point where if you don't have these kind of things at your disposal, it's gonna be quite difficult to be able to stay on top for sure. There's a lot of bike parks in Europe have mulch jumps, or there's airbag facilities that are indoor and stuff like that. So a lot of those kids are pretty lucky. In North America, our bike park wise, I know we have one public mulch jump that's up. It's at the Stevie Smith Bike Park, where they're just holding that Red Bull race.
I've seen that. Yeah, the pump track stuff. Yeah,
which is awesome. But it's a small mulch jump, so like really like the scale of what the F&B is at. Like my airbag, for example, is a 10-foot lip, like a 30-foot gap, and the airbag itself is 12 feet tall, 30 feet wide, and 40 feet long. Okay. So the jump itself is quite like, it's large. It's definitely not exactly the size of what you'd see at Crankworks, but it's pretty damn close. So it's a huge asset I see for myself. But it's like, to get the space to be able to build a jump that large is so hard. So like, it's quite difficult to get these training facilities. Like if you don't have property, and you're kind of screwed in a sense, because I can't really think of many public parks in North America that have jumps large enough to really train on. So a lot of the places are just private facilities that kids have built in the woods or built at their parents' house or whatever it might be.
Yeah. You see Nikolai's set up off the side of his house. So
sick. That's my goal. I want to do the same thing. That's what I'm trying to do. I want to get like, this off the side of his house is pretty wicked, but I want to get like a drop into my airbag and kind of the whole shebang. Because my big thing is I got a couple world's firsts that I want to debut pretty soon that I've been working on for a while. Yeah, so I got like, I can do the flip cliffhanger, but I've been working on a combo after it. So it's there's a lot going on in that trick, but it's a world's first. I have a couple other world's firsts that I haven't really told anyone about.
Okay.
So my big thing
as well of like timing where you unveil that to get the most exposure from it as well.
Exactly.
Like, that's the
that's
business
my
side
goal.
of things again, right? Like you have to. Time
100%. Yeah, exactly. That's right. I have a bunch, and I haven't really had the right timing to debut them. So there's a couple I've been sitting on for like a year or two, and I'm like, I'm just waiting for the right time where it's a good time to debut it, where it's going to get like enough people that's going to like, oh crap, it's going to turn some heads.
Right.
So that's definitely the goal.
That's cool. So you feel like your career is in a pretty good spot right now, both business-wise and also obviously as far as just being a slopestyle athlete as well? Yeah,
I feel like it's going pretty good. I mean, I'm definitely just, it's a lot of grinding. The business side of things I think are going really, really well. Put a lot of time and effort into it. I think I got such a good training facility lined up for myself now for this off season and then right now. So I think my career as a slopestyle athlete and the business side of things are like right on the trajectory that I'm looking for. I think maybe like, cause I'm plain simple. My goal is to like win Crankworks. Like that is my main goal. I think anyone in slopestyle, like that is their goal, is to win the creme de la creme sport.
Yeah.
So my goal is within the next 2 years to be on that diamond circuit. So I'm just going to be training my butt off until I get there, basically.
Wow. That's rad, dude. That's cool. You got high expectations. That's really cool. But I don't follow the slopestyle stuff too much, but from seeing what you're doing for your social media, and anyone who's listening, like check his social media out because you throw in some stuff down. It looks like you've got like your bag of tricks is deep, like super deep, and you're doing the stuff that the big guys are doing too.
Yeah. So. Yeah, definitely. That's one thing too. Like the flip whip off a flat drop, Brett Reeder, he beat me to that one. I've been working on that one for a long time.
Oh,
I think
yeah?
I was first doing that one in like,
Was it Innsbruck he did that? Is that right?
yeah, he did it in
Yeah,
Innsbruck. Yeah,
yeah,
I
okay.
thought when I saw that, I was like, oh, I was so disappointed. I was like, oh my God, because I'm building a slopestyle course right now, with a drop that I plan on. Like, I wanted to do that. I thought I was gonna be the first. Like, that was one of the bag of tricks I had that I was like, oh, that's a world's first. Like, I can do that. Like, I've been working on it. I was doing them into the Whistler Air Dome,
Hmm.
a while back, and then I've been practicing them quite a bit. So that was one that thought I was gonna have the world's first, but Brett Reeder beat me to it.
Ah, it's Brett Reeder, dude. Let him have.
Yeah, dude,
You can
that
have
was the
that one,
thing.
Brett.
Yeah, you can have that one. That one's a gnarly one, man. Like it's an all or nothing type trick. Like it's like you're either landing it or you're really not walking away. Okay.
It was pretty sick. I went out to Leger Crankworks, and just like been there for. I was there from like Wednesday to like basically when the slopestyle final was. Watching
yeah.
the guys' attitudes to like practice was insane. Like Reader literally rode maybe 2 practices that I saw, like just banger after banger, just got everything laid down and then didn't ride. Whereas like Nikolai rode every practice. Yeah, it was banger after banger, but he rode so much. It's just like polar
Nikolai
opposite.
is crazy. His mentality is like he's gonna go do that trick like no matter what. Like even if it's his freaking like winning run, he's gonna go do a twister.
Yeah,
It's like he has those things so freaking dialed. It's crazy. I think one of the things too that's really important to like kind of like tune in on is I think injuries. Like if you haven't been hurt in a while, you get pretty cocky. I think Nikolai. I mean, I'm not saying he's cocky, but he's definitely. I don't think he's gotten really injured in a while, like knock on wood.
yeah.
But I think injuries is one thing that really like kind of like sits in the back of your brain.
Oh, it has to,
And
man.
makes
It has to.
yeah, totally. Like when you're like, oh, okay, maybe I don't want to go do that trick if I don't have to, because like the injury is there. Like these tricks are like deadly. Like you could kill yourself like quite easily. Like you're dropping off like 30-foot drops and like you're going like freaking 40, 50 feet in the air on some of these hits, and it's like if something goes wrong, and like it can go wrong, really wrong sometimes. Like you can get like
Oh,
quite
you get
hurt.
messed up, man, for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
and that's
so
what you're
it's
saying as
crazy.
well, I guess, is you know, you're training so much, but I guess all that training is just sort of like leveling up the chance of getting injured. Obviously,
It
again,
is.
touch
It-
wood,
no,
like
exactly,
doesn't happen,
yeah.
but the more you're doing that, the more you know you're increasing your chances to get hurt.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. That's where it's like taking the calculated risk. Like when
Yeah.
I go to contests and I train, I look at like if I'm gonna go do like my run, I'm gonna go do roughly my run like at least twice, and then like I'm not gonna go do it again. Like I'll just ride. I'm not gonna go do those tricks that scare the shit out of me. If I can land them like twice, I'm like, all right, I can do the run. But I definitely don't try and do like a twister just for a winning run for the fun of it.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
I mean, at the same time, I totally understand it to a certain degree because like that's what I did. Like I was like, I qualified for the event at Vice Edmonton, and I went to go do a flip cliffhanger just to like show off, and that's when I broke my collarbone. And I had done it like 15 times throughout the entire day. Like I had them basically on lock. But that's when I think I was coming down with like heat stroke. Like I puked in like the porta potty just before I was supposed to drop my qualifying event run. And I was like, oh, this is not the greatest thing. And then I qualified, and then I was like, there was a bunch of people there, so it's like, oh, I gotta go do a flip cliffhanger just for the fun of it, just so everyone can see it. And then that's when it just like the worst possible case scenario happened. And I think I just overcooked myself, just got too tired. So you
live and learn, bro. Live and learn.
Yeah, exactly.
Live and learn. So who before we wrap this thing up, like who are your inspirations? I mean, you said you look up to Gary Vee on the business side of things. I think Gary Vee's cool. I think if I'm ever really like lacking on motivation, I'll throw one of those videos on myself and just sort of like let it fire you up. I think his attitude is just like pretty insane.
For sure.
For me, some of it's a little bit like, all right, man, like shut the fuck up now, move on.
Yeah, no, I totally. Some of it's like, oh my god, okay.
Yeah, it's like a
Heard
little
that,
bit
heard
repeat the same sort of stuff. But yeah. What else motivates you, dude? Like what else?
that. Motivates me. I mean, one of my big things too, and is I want to get on the Nitro Circus. Like one of my big things is I want to do one of the Nitro Circus shows because I mean I have a bunch of world's first tricks. I can do a lot of those tricks that those guys are already doing.
Are you
So
on the
my
radar?
goal,
Like, do they know
Yeah.
about you? Yeah.
I believe so. I've talked to a lot of the guys. Like I talked to Pat Bowden,
Okay.
quite a bit. Braden Schmidt, I forget
Yeah.
his first name.
Yeah.
I've talked to those guys, and so they're both telling me that if I can kind of just keep training, and get a video together, they could help pass it on to the right people. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now too, is in the works. Is I'm trying to just get a bunch of tricks really, really, really dialed, a bunch of world's firsts, and then hopefully send a video to like those guys and be like, hey man, like can you pass this on? Try and help me get on the circuit and party down with those guys.
Yeah, that'd be sick. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
And what else? Like, who do you look up to right now, like in the sport?
In the sport, definitely Simon Godziak. I think he does the whole like FMX style of riding, like I was talking about. So I think he's one guy I definitely look up to in the sport. He's sweet. Brett Reeder, of course, because he's Brett. And then I look up Pat Bowden's one guy too. I take a lot of inspiration from him. We actually do like a lot of the same tricks. I just do it on a mountain bike. He does it on his dirt bike, like flip cliffhanger is one of his like signatures too, and then like Superman backflips and stuff like that. So I'm like, I try and I look at what he's doing and say, oh, I could probably do that on my bike. So I try it. Like one of the new ones I'm trying to work on is like a backflip, like bar hop. I don't know if you would know what that is.
Okay.
You kick your front feet. Yeah. So it's like a pretty FMX trick that I've gotten down to the airbag. I can do it pretty good on the airbag, but I want to learn it more on actual jumps.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, a bar hop. Yeah, not a quarter over, feet through sort of vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Feet through, kick it through, and then bring it back. So that's one of the ones I'm working on. I think it's pretty cool, FMX wise.
Cool. Very good. Cool, man. Well, I think give us a little plug for the event because hopefully, we're going to spread this around a little bit. Let's make sure that people local know about it. So when's the event? When's it kick off?
So
and when can people find out more about what you're up to as well?
Yeah, so it's August 11th. At the North Santa Shira Park. Starts at 10 a.m. You can show up earlier. 10 a.m. is just kind of when we're going to do registration. And then it ends at 6. The amateur event's at 12. And then the professional event starts at 2. Show up. There's going to be food, drinks, a bunch of people. There's going to be a bunch of news crews coming out of there. We're definitely trying to make it kind of like a huge media thing so that we can get as much content as possible. And it helps out all the sponsors that were kind enough to be involved. So...
Well, honestly, man, I genuinely hope that coming on here has helped in some way, even if it's just being able to have a chat and you can share this around a little bit and, tell your sponsors about it, all that sort of stuff. Like I say, thanks for reaching out. I really appreciate it. It's always
I appreciate you for having me, man. I think you're killing it with the podcast. I think it's what the industry needs. And I think you're definitely the guy to do it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. We'll see. I think the platform, obviously this platform and podcasting in general is growing pretty quickly. I think, like we were talking before, man, like start a podcast. It's not hard at all just to start a podcast, get some buddies involved, make some content around it, just do it. I think that is the direction this thing is going. Athletes having podcasts. I think, you look at what other sports are doing, and I've kind of spoke about it on here a little bit, but I always look at UFC as an example. Those guys, a lot of them have their own podcasts now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of the athletes have their own podcasts where they'll, have other fighters or whatever or whoever on, And I'd like to think that that's the way that the mountain bike side of it's going to go. And I think that, the mountain bike podcast stuff really too, we should all sort of work together. I think, let's say there is a new, movie coming out or whatever. It's cool if you could have, the rider or whatever go on all of the mountain bike podcasts to promote it. And, you look at like what comedians are doing, for example. I listen to Joe Rogan quite a lot, and and they're all sort of like, yes, they're all friends, but they'll all go around each other's podcasts and help out. And
yeah, definitely. One thing too, I was playing around with the idea for a podcast. I don't know if people are actually interested in it, but it was like a podcast that teaches kids like how to do tricks. So I mean, if you want to learn how to do a trick, come on the podcast and you can maybe break it down for you.
It's a good idea. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure,
I mean, within the action sports community, there's not really much coaching. There's not really much to like learn how to go do tricks. I know when I was younger, I'd always Google like on YouTube, like how do I do a front flip? Where it never really teaches you too much. Where like the biggest thing that I ever learned was I was riding at that jump ship actually in like 2014. And Casey Groves was there and he was like, press your front or press your back brake and it'll kick you forward. And I was like, holy crap, it's that easy to change this. And I did that and it worked. And it was like, holy crap.
Right.
So there's so many small like little tips and tricks that can like help you learn things. Like one thing too, Matt Jones does is he puts like skateboard grip tape on his cranks. So you don't slip pedals as much. So if you catch cranks on the tail whip, you can have like a little bit more grip, which I started doing that now. And holy crap, it's genius. Like that makes so much, it helps so much more than you'd expect. Yeah. Huh. So these like small little tips and tricks that are pretty crazy.
Yeah. I was with Matt Jones yesterday, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And his brother. Yeah. We were at a local race. Well, I said local, a UK enduro called Hard Rock, and John O'Road, his brother, and Matt was around. I had a little chat with Matt for a little while.
awesome.
Yeah, he's killing the game right now. He's doing
Yeah,
doing-
man,
doing
he's
good.
killing it. I want to try and hook him up with an airbag. I was trying. He commented on one of my Facebook pictures, just being like, "Oh, that thing looks sweet." And so I was like, "Yeah, man. Like, if you want one, I can get you one for
Oh,
like
yeah,
a
he
quarter
has
of what they're selling them for."
He has a compound and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
he's a cool guy.
Sick. Well, again, dude, I got to bounce, which is a little unfortunate, but thank
Yeah,
you
no worries,
so
man. I
much
totally appreciate all your
for,
time.
for doing this. I really appreciate you taking the time out. And where can people follow you to? Like Instagram, YouTube, all that sort of stuff. Just
Yeah,
shout
so
out and
my
stuff.
Instagram is just Bryce Starling. The North American Slopestyle Circuit is the event Instagram page. My YouTube channel is just my life. I haven't posted there in a bit, but I'm working on doing more vlogs and stuff like that, and kind of posting more content. And then yeah, a lot of my social media is just my name. It's just Bryce Starling.
Sweet. All right, man. Well,
Awesome.
I really hope the event goes well for you.
I appreciate that.
I really do. Keep us posted. Like, if there's anything I can do here with this platform to help you, just let me know.
Will do.
Obviously, we'll share all the episode around social media, and then hopefully we can share some stuff after your event. If you've got some content, we'll give that a share
Sure.
for you.
Okay, that's awesome.
But yeah, dude, best of luck, and thanks again
Yeah,
for
thanks.
taking time
Nice
out.
meeting you as well.
Hey,
I really appreciate it.
internet
All right.
friends, bro.
Yeah, exactly. It's starting.
Peace.
Romance. All right,
Thank
I'll
you.
talk to you later. Bye.
And there you have it, friends. Episode number 54 with Bryce Starling is in the bag. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that little bundle of energy, Bryce. But yeah, he's got some rad stuff going on. So if you guys can support it at all just by giving him a follow or, guiding people towards this episode, that would be hugely appreciated. So yeah, don't forget to go follow Bryce. We are at the Hook It Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. If you have enjoyed listening to this episode, please head over to iTunes and leave a review, either with the stars or type something out so we can share it. That would be, crazy. Please do that. It goes so far. And again, if you have bought a pair of Sax underwear, then drop us a quick message in the Instagram direct messages, just with like your experience, why you bought them, what you bought, where you got them from, even if you can do that. And that's it, really. Back in a couple of days with episode 55 too. Have an awesome week, everybody, and thanks again for listening, and thank you for your continued support. It means a bunch. You!